In the world of power, there are men who need no explanation, no validation, no constant reassurance. They don't argue, they don't raise their voice, and they certainly don't beg for attention. They simply withdraw. And when they do, something happens, something eerie. The room grows cold. People become uneasy. Silence begins to speak louder than any words ever could. This isn't passivity. This is deliberate power. Machiavelli understood this art of withdrawal deeply. For him, absence was not a retreat, it was domination. A prince must know how to disappear without losing his influence, he wrote. And when a leader chooses to step back, he doesn't just disappear. He forces others to confront their own dependency. They don't miss him. They miss the power they had over him, the access they once had. In a world that praises constant availability and the virtue of showing up, Machiavelli would argue that predictability is not a virtue, it's a liability. The man who is always present, always available, is never feared. And a man who is not feared is controlled. If you've been the one who always answers, always over-explains, always gives more than you receive, then you've been used, not loved. Your kindness, without boundaries, breeds contempt. People begin to take you for granted, and you slowly lose your power. Machiavelli would call this weakness dressed as virtue. He would tell you that your value should never be measured by your willingness to please. You must become rare. Scarcity is the foundation of influence. When you always show up, you lose leverage. You lose mystery. You become disposable. So, next time you feel tempted to explain, to prove your intentions, or to reassure others who never once reassured you, don't. Disappear. Not out of revenge, but as a strategy of refinement. Reintroduce yourself as someone who is no longer at their service, but a sovereign force, whose silence speaks louder than words ever could. Withdrawal is not cowardice. It's evolution. The moment you stop reacting and start positioning, you become unpredictable. You become unreachable. And that is when the world notices. When you disappear, they don't wonder what happened to you. They wonder what power you've discovered that made you stop explaining yourself. Lesson 1. The cost of being too available. Predictability makes you disposable. Survival in a world ruled by perception means abandoning the illusion that goodness alone will protect you. The truth is harsh. Being useful is not power. Being predictable is not loyalty. And being always available is the death of respect. From the moment you were born, society conditioned you to be agreeable. Say yes, don't make waves, show up early, answer quickly, apologize even when you're not wrong. But Machiavelli saw through this conditioning. He didn't believe in moral submission. He believed in power management. If you're always available, always explaining, you've already surrendered the throne of your own life. The man who makes himself cheap will never be treated as rare. When you're constantly responding, you build expectation, and expectation kills appreciation. Machiavelli said, "The man who seeks to be loved by all becomes the slave of the ungrateful, because people don't respect the man who always says yes. They exploit him. And here's how it works. They send a message. You respond. They complain. You explain. They create chaos. You provide peace. You become their crisis manager, their validation machine, their disposable shield against discomfort. But you were not born to be anyone's emotional butler. You were born to build a life ruled by your own values, not their moods. Machiavelli wouldn't comfort you in this state. He would awaken you. He would say, when they expect you to disappear, do it. When they depend on you, detach. When they assume you're theirs, remind them you belong to no one, because the man who cannot disrupt expectations will forever be ruled by them. Lesson 2. Energy management. Who's stealing your power? In war, the smartest generals don't fight every battle. They don't waste arrows on illusions. They reserve their energy and strike with precision. And in your life, every conversation, every emotional fire you put out for others, costs you something. Most men don't even realize they're being robbed. They wake up tired, not from exertion, but from exposure. Exposure to people who drain them, situations that weaken them. Machiavelli wouldn't call it burnout. He'd call it strategic failure. Because the man who wastes his power on trivial battles will have nothing left when the real war comes. Your energy is not infinite. It is currency. And how you spend it reflects who you obey. Every time you react to an insult or waste time in meaningless arguments, you surrender your kingdom. Manipulators don't need to overpower you. They just need you to waste yourself. They know you will react, and they use your reactions to control you. Machiavelli would never allow that. He'd instruct you to withdraw your energy from the useless. Let the fools destroy themselves in the silence you no longer break. When you stop giving them what they want, your validation, your time, your attention, you become dangerous. They'll call you cold, distant, selfish. But you've become unreadable, ungovernable. You were not built to pour yourself out like a public fountain. You were built to guard your inner fire like a fortress. When your energy is sacred, your presence becomes rare, and when your presence becomes rare, it becomes power. Lesson 3. Silence, the collapse of the mask. Silence is not retreat. It is not surrender. It is not weakness. Silence is the weapon of those who no longer dance to the noise of others. Machiavelli saw silence as camouflage. The wise man does not need to lie. He only needs to withhold, he wrote. In a world full of noise, silence disrupts the pattern. It breaks the script. And what people can't read, they can't control. Your silence exposes the truth. It forces those who once used you to face the emptiness they've been hiding behind your presence. The ones who smiled in your face will now call your silence arrogance, your boundaries cruelty, your growth betrayal. But don't react. Let them. This is where the mask falls. And once the mask falls, the game begins. You are no longer who they want you to be. You are who you choose to be. The power of withdrawal, of silence, and of carefully managed presence is the foundation of control in a world that thrives on manipulation and predictability. The strategies Machiavelli teaches us aren't just about survival. They are about true, lasting power. They challenge us to redefine our value, to become unreadable, and to never be anyone's emotional servant. If you are ready to stop explaining yourself, to embrace your sovereignty, and to never let others dictate your worth again, Virtù is here to guide you. Join us in mastering the psychology of power and start living as the force you were meant to be. If this resonates with you, hit that subscribe button and join the journey. Don't chase respect. Command it. Embrace silence as your weapon, and let your presence be your power. Like, share, and comment below, and let's keep exploring the depths of true strength, strategy, and sovereignty together.